Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is what happens next with Israel as the Iran war winds down and Israel finishes dealing with Hezbollah. The most significant issue is diplomacy, world diplomacy. Sure, security, diplomacy, and strategic alliances all combine to create the modern state of Israel. The Jewish state security apparatus has been heralded by the Western world. Jerusalem's diplomatic corps is seasoned, articulate, and stiff-necked when necessary. Her strategic alliances grew as entering arenas never before willing to speak to, let alone align with, Israel. And yet, in spite of herself, in spite of her many attributes, her victories, and her world-altering achievements in the areas of science, technology, warfare, and the arts, Israel had been in constant search of international acceptance. World opinion mattered to Israel, and that searching, that longing, that at times proved detrimental to the growth and the decision-making of one of the most powerful nations in the world, Israel. Israel was founded on a principle of morality and moral legitimacy. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, in a world where it was clear that Jews needed a safe homeland, a haven, a refuge, Israel was there. Israel was home. Israel was the Jewish haven for Jews from world over. That reality was clear not only to Jews, it was understood and accepted by the international community and officially acknowledged by, yes, the United Nations. Despite all she had achieved in a relatively short span of her statehood, Israel craved praise and acceptance. A critical blow in international media was interpreted as a strategic loss to Israel and in Israel. Critique by a world leader was a stab in the heart of Jerusalem. Israel had been so preoccupied with public relations, with Hasbara, that diplomatically speaking, she missed the forest through the trees. To justify her actions, viewed negatively by foreign actors, she launched major media and PR campaigns. Many of those campaigns centered on activities and actions of the IDF, a defense force renowned for strategic planning and occupying successes. In July and August of 2006, let's say for instance, in the midst of a serious fighting, Israel embarked on a PR barrage to explain the activities of the IDF in Lebanon. The goal was to shape public opinion in the world, especially in the United States and within the European Union. In July and August 2014, Israel was assaulted by slings and arrows of damaging press coverage, resulting in the faltering world opinion because of civilian Palestinian deaths in Gaza. And so they set out again to change the narrative. That precedent had been set years earlier. Israel entered negotiations and deals they were skeptical of because they were pressured to join. The Oslo Accords of 1993 are a perfect example of that. Israel was forced into Oslo to reduce international isolation. It backfired. In 2003, under the leadership of Ariel Sharon, Israel accepted a roadmap for peace. The goal was to help the United States. 4 years later, under Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, Israel participated in a peace conference in Annapolis, Maryland. We were there. Jerusalem sent their delegates, knowing full well that they went pro forma. Israel, there would be no agreement, but they went. They sat, they listened, they tried to set forth their agenda, and then they returned home empty-handed. When tragedy strikes, Israel engages in humanitarian help around the world. Israeli teams have become world leaders in earthquake and other disaster assistance. I don't think there's anyone who parallels them. They do this because it is the Jewish way. They do it to save lives. They do it to help improve their image in the world also. Israel craves the acceptance of their allies that sometimes their actions actually go against their own country's best interest. On numerous occasions, settlement building, for example, has been slowed and even frozen at the behest of allies and international friends, especially the United States. All in order to get positive feedback, all for the diplomatic pat on the back. Israel has, at long last, matured. The Jewish state has become and has come of age. The lesson that Israel must do what Israel needs to do, and Israel can do it by playing the media and public relations game rather than chasing after it, has finally been internalized. Israel is using the Iran war as cover for advancing Israel's goals in Lebanon and in Gaza. The eyes of the world and the focus of international media is on Iran right now. At any other time in any other year, Israel would have been shaken by the thrashing they are getting by many once friendly nations for their actions, for the havoc they, in conjunction with the United States, are causing. Today, Israel is impervious to that coverage. Today, Israel is using media coverage of Iran to cover IDF activities in Lebanon and Gaza to achieve their goals. Were it not for Iran, Israel would be thrashed for the very activity in Lebanon and hazed for their actions in Gaza right now. Sadly, it took an international response of October 7th, the vitriol and the vicious anti-Semitism, the horrors and the deaths, for Israel to mature. Coming up next, Points of View. This week, both columns are from Ynet. First up is a column that was published on October 5th, 2026, and is written by Tzachi Hanegbi. It's entitled The Illusion of Total Victory and Three Other Myths, subtitled Opinion: If only a single successful operation could eliminate our enemy's ambitions for generations. But a more sober view holds that in every generation we must be prepared to fight those who seek our destruction. Hanegbi's point of view is extremely important. Problems are not simply solved by one event or snapping of fingers. It doesn't happen. There's no magic wand. Hanegbi is a seasoned political politician. He's a Likud politician. Until recently, he was the National Security Advisor. He served as a minister for many ministries. Especially relevant here, he was the Minister of Internal Security and Nuclear Affairs. This is how he begins. After the United States withdrew from the nuclear deal with Iran, Tehran enriched some of its uranium beyond the levels permitted under the agreement. It also prevented the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, from maintaining close oversight of these processes, in clear violation of its obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. In its latest report, the agency said Iran possesses 440.9 kilograms, that's about 972 pounds, of uranium enriched up to 60%. Even so, removing the uranium from Iran was not included among the objectives of Operation Rising Lion or Operation Roaring Lion. Hanegbi now explains that boots on the ground are not even an issue up for discussion with the United States and Israel. He writes, the reasons are straightforward. Israel, and apparently the United States as well, never intended to deploy thousands of troops deep inside Iran to seize nuclear facilities in a ground operation. While the United States, unlike Israel, has unique great power capabilities, it appears to prefer removing the uranium as part of a comprehensive agreement. Absent such a deal, the approach is to monitor suspected sites and, if necessary, act against them from the air. The author now explains that there is no way to guarantee that Iran will not rebuild after this period. The opposite, actually. Rather, that it is very likely that Iran will rebuild. This is how Hanegbi writes it. There is no way to guarantee that even a clear military defeat will end an adversary's motivation to pursue its objectives. Phrases such as once and for all amount to speculation. Political leaders and military commanders are not prophets. Hanegbi explains that in the past, Israel successfully deterred their enemies, and now they must do it again. He writes, Israel has achieved such outcomes in past wars, while preparing for the likelihood that the results would not be permanent. Israel's most decisive victory came in June 1967, during the Six-Day War, when its military defeated the armies of Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, and ended the fighting in control of extensive territories previously held by those countries. This is how Hanegbi concludes. He asserts that Israel must always be prepared for the next war and make sure to win. He writes, "The lesson is that Israel must always prepare to win the next conflict. The more comprehensive the victory, the more likely it is to yield longer-term security benefits. But it is not serious to declare in advance what those benefits will be or how long they will last. What is certain is that victories, like failures, have an expiration date. When the Israeli military meets the objectives set by the political leadership, it is preferable to describe the outcome in terms that convey satisfaction without creating illusions, such as an impressive victory, a decisive victory, or a resounding victory. If only a single successful operation could eliminate the hostile ambitions of Israel's enemies for generations." A more sober outlook, however, echoes a traditional Passover Seder passage. "In every generation, there are those who rise up to destroy us." This is a very important essay and extremely sobering. Thank you, Tzachi Hanegbi. Next up is also from Ynet, and it was published on April 4th, 2026. It's authored by Dr. Michael Milstein. It is entitled, "Iran Revolutionary Guard Completes Takeover of Key Power Centers as War Reshapes Regime." Subtitled, "Analysis, IRGC is consolidating control as war accelerates a shift toward more hardline leadership, tightening its grip on political, military, and economic power while sidelining more moderate voices in Tehran." This is how Milstein begins. As the war enters its second month, uncertainty remains over the extent of damage to Iran's nuclear program and ballistic missile arsenal. But another objective, regime change, appears to be unfolding gradually, though not in the way the United States and Israel had hoped. Milstein explains that it appears that the IRGC is shaping up to be the leader in the new regime, and that this is something the United States and Israel did not expect. The Revolutionary Guard has long served as the backbone of the Islamic Republic. Like similar ideologically driven regimes, it functions as the guardian for leadership and manpower across state institutions, and a force tasked with suppressing internal and external enemies. It is a group that sees itself as elite, marked by a willingness to sacrifice for its ideology and the lack of moral restraint in using violence against perceived enemies, including fellow citizens. In recent years, a number of senior Guard figures have been killed, both in office and after retirement. Among them were Qasem Soleimani, commander of the Quds Force, killed in 2020, Hussein Salami, the Guard's commander, as well as his successor, Mohammad Pakpour, and Navy Commander Ali Zera Tangziri in the current conflict. Milstein explains the relationship between the religious establishment and the IRGC is extremely close. He writes, "The relationship between the Guard and the religious establishment are characterized by both cooperation and limited competition. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei strengthened the Guard while maintaining a balance with more pragmatic elements within the system. Following his death, the Guard's influence has increased further, though not at the expense of the clerical establishment. Instead, the two appear to be operating in closer alignment. Mujtaba Khamenei, who succeeded his father, is seen as closely tied to the Guard and aligned with its worldview." Milstein's conclusion does not offer much hopeful advice. He writes, "If the regime survives the war, whether it ends in an agreement or not, it is likely to emerge as more extreme than it was before. A group of more hardline figures, driven by a sense of having withstood major challenges, could consolidate power in Tehran. In such a scenario, the regime is likely to take a more aggressive approach toward Israel, and if not constrained, will seek to rebuild its conventional military power and so-called axis of resistance, which has been significantly weakened since October 7th. More seriously, it may pursue a military nuclear capability as a means of deterrence and ensuring survival." This essay by Michael Milstein, is very important. It clearly suggests that the IRGC may be the next leaders of Iran, and that is frightening. Coming up, commentary through cartoons where pictures tell the story. I want to show you 5 cartoons today. First up is a common theme calling Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a mass murderer. It's blood all around, skulls all over the place. It's really despicable. Next up depicts Trump on a boat paying the Ayatollah a toll to use the Straits of Hormuz. Trump is bowing and saying God is great in Arabic, Allahu Akbar. Clearly the artist thinks that Iran has won. Next up is Israel visiting Lebanon. An Israeli tank is blowing up Lebanon, or the symbol of Lebanon, the cedar tree, on the Lebanese flag. This next cartoon is of a ceasefire, a dove, with an olive branch, and explosions are all around. And finally, in a biting critique, we see the Israeli Prime Minister giving 2 responses. He says, I won't take this, but I will take that. He won't take criticism, but he will take billions of dollars of support from the United States. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a recorded statement to the media about Hezbollah and Iran that the campaign has not yet ended, but even now it can be clearly stated we have historic achievements. We went into the campaign because Iran was very close to nuclear weapons and the capability to produce hundreds of missiles per day. The 2 existential threats that we had to remove from over our heads. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sharply criticized Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, writing on his X account, formerly Twitter, that Israel is under my leadership, will continue to fight Iran's terror regime and its proxies, unlike Erdogan, who aids them and even massacres his Kurdish citizens. Netanyahu's remarks came as Erdogan's government filed an unusual indictment against him and 34 other senior Israeli officials over the Navy's seizure of the Samud Gaza flotilla, those vessels that came towards Gaza last October.
The United States is an imperialist power. They exploited our natural resources. They exploited our oil.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that after revoking the residency permits, the son of the former Iranian Vice President, Massoumeh Ebtekar, and his family were taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, ahead of their deportation from the country. Ebtekar became infamous as Tehran Mary due to her role as spokeswoman for the terrorists who stormed the U.S. Embassy in, remember this, 1979, kidnapped 52 of its staff and held them captive for 444 days. She served as Iran's vice president between 2013 and 2021. Rubio wrote on X, in 2014, the Obama administration granted visas to the son of Screaming Mary and his family, and in 2016 granted them permanent residency. Relatives of terrorists should never have enjoyed life in our country. I applaud Rubio's actions. Me. This woman was awful. She represented evil. About 50,000 visitors turned up in nature reserves and national parks across Israel over the Passover weekend, which opened for the first time since the outbreak of the war with Iran. The Israel Nature and Parks Authority reported that the leading sites were the Yarkon in Tel Aviv and Tel Efek, Tel Ashkelon, Caesarea, Apollonia, Beit Guvrin, I was the historian there, Besser National Park, and Mitzpeh Hantansim. About 350 visitors actually spent the night in campgrounds across Israel. The United States agreed to unfreeze Iran's frozen assets held in Qatar and other foreign banks. This was reported by Reuters news agency, citing an Iranian official who noted that Tehran views this step as a gesture of goodwill and a sign of seriousness. He did not specify the value of the assets, but other sources who spoke with the news agency Reuters claimed it amounts to about $6 billion held in Qatar, $6 billion held in Qatar. where it is also reported that U.S. President Donald Trump announced the naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Quote, the U.S. Navy will begin blocking all vessels attempting to enter and exit the Strait of Hormuz, Trump wrote on his Truth Social network, accusing Iran of exploiting the world. In addition, I've instructed our Navy to locate any vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. We will begin removing mines that Iran has placed in the strait. Any Iranian who fires on the U.S. or on a peaceful vessel will be completely destroyed. The toll, by the way, is $1 million a vessel to Iran. During Easter celebrations in the town of El Borgo, Spain, an effigy resembling Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was set on fire. The effigy bore the inscription, "People Killer," and contained approximately 13.9 kilos of explosives, which detonated in front of a local and tourist audience. El Borgo Mayor Maria Dolores Navarez defended the act, claiming it continues the tradition of burning Judas, and said, "This is an anti-war message. Every year we choose a different figure that represents evil in our eyes." The Israeli embassy in Spain condemned the act. The real evil is terror. This display of hatred is an act that incites violence. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquante piece of information. This is a rap song by Bar Cooperstein, who was kidnapped on October 7th and lived in Hamas captivity for 738 days. He began writing this poem in the tunnels and finished writing it together with Eli Tzur, who was a famous religious Israeli songwriter, performer. You see them together in the video. The song is called The Song of Freedom, The Last War. The last lines are not translated, and I'm sorry about that. I'll translate them here. They appear in Hebrew in yellow. It means everything is in the hands of the Creator. The Father referred to here in the song is clearly God. This is extremely powerful. Let's listen and watch.
אבא, תשמע, אוהב אותך, אתה בטח יודע, למרות כל מה שעברתי, תודה שאני לא משתגע. פסיכולוג שלי מדבר, ובאמת הוא מנסה, אבל אין לו דרך לעזור לי באמת. נראה לי התבגרתי קצת יותר מדי, במראה אני רואה רק חצי בן אדם. מביא חיבוק לאנשים, הם בוכים ונמסים, אבל אצלי הכל דפוק, הרגש מנותק. והתחושה הזו של המחנק, עוד מעט טנדר שהבנתי שהכל נדפק, והדמעות עכשיו זולגות לי כשאני נזכר, הם לא ייקחו לי את החופש, אני לא נשבר. בלילות תמיד חלמתי על המשפחה, בבקרים שוב התעוררתי לרצפה קרה, ולא כעסתי אף פעם אבא, אל תשכח. אז עכשיו אני מתפלל שזאת תהיה המלחמה שיעלה כל הכאב, אבא הספיק לנו, תביא כבר גאולה. ולא, אני לא שכחתי את הרגעים של הטוב, איך שדיברנו ותמיד אתה היית קרוב, איך כל מה שביקשתי תמיד נתת הכל, עם איזה משהו מתוק או קצת יותר לאכול, לא שצעקתי בלילה, רק אל תעזוב אותי לבד, ואיזה רדיו ישן שהזהות ברצפה, משום מקום הוא נדלק.
ג'ולי, אם בר שומע אותך עכשיו, את רוצה להגיד לו משהו?
אם אתה שומע זו אמא, רק אל תאבד את התקווה. אמא שלי דיברה בשידור, אני שמעתי אותך, דבר אליי. ילד שלי בלב, ילד אל תשכח אף פעם שאבא לא עוזב. אני מתפלל שזאת תהיה המלחמה האחרונה שיעלה
אמנם עכשיו הרצפה כבר לא קרה, אבל אני כאן מחפש להבין מה המטרה. אתה יודע? איש פעם אמר לי שיש לי שליחות בעולם הזה. אולי זה להציל אנשים, אולי זה לאחד, אבל יש לי בקשה אחת. אם לקחת לי את האושר, תביא את הגאולה.
The strength, faith, and creativity of these hostages is truly inspirational. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.